So welcome to today's video, guys, and we've got this very clean Mark II 16 valve GTI running an ABF engine. Now it's coming for a list of stuff that needs to be done. You know, these project cars are never really finished. It's taken, I think, about 7 years for not him personally to build it, but somebody else to build it for him. And there's always like little niggles, you know how project cars go, they're never really finished. And also, for something that's been so long, you know, you find problems as you go along, you have to drive it. Yes, you can maybe be lucky and finish a project car from, you know, from end to end, and I think the people that have finished this car, or did this car, should I say, did take it for a drive, but stuff comes up over a period of time, and there's quite a few little niggles that need to be done, as well as kind of more finishing touches the customer wants to do. It's never really, project's never really finished. I'm waffling. Let's get into today's sponsor, as well as let's get on with the video after that. Back onto 3D item products. I had an idea. I'm really getting to grip with the program of designing stuff, and I got loads of ideas. Sometimes having loads of ideas, you kind of don't have the skills to actually produce the stuff, or if you do have the skills to produce the stuff, you don't have any ideas. I'm working around, I'm the latter. Got loads of ideas, but not lots of skill on computer to actually get these made. But I've made, I think, about 6 of these. Different drawings to kind of get this perfect. And this was actually, this grey one, the grey stuff is actually just normal PLA. I won't be selling that. You're going to use stuff that's actually, you know, resistant to UV light, as well as heat and stuff like this. This stuff is not very good. So be aware of PLA products if you're using it on your car, especially on the outside of the car. Yeah, so this is a prototype. The end product is made out of a stronger material. Basically, all you do is you remove the inner headlight, spotlight on your Hella Golf Mark III. Actually, this is for the Golf Mark III twin Hella rounds. You remove kind of the 3 little bits that hold it on there, and you literally just put a screw through. You know, you don't over tighten it, because you don't need to really over tighten it. It's got like, I think, a 4mm hole, so you can put a nice screw in there, and it's actually quite deep as well. So you can just kind of put the screw in, and the actual original item is actually slightly longer than this one, so you can get a hose on there quite comfortably. It is a tight fit to the plug. Yep, you might need to do something with that, but that's the best I could do, is kind of pull it up and get it as close as I can. And these are going to be going up on the website for £35. Now, there is a deal on at the moment with my good friend Sol at Heart and Soul Paintworks in the UK. So if you're in the UK, you can pick these up for a little bit cheaper. He's getting the stock. He'll be the UK supplier of these. He's got 10 coming in. This is the actual finished stuff. The outside finish was really, really nice. The inside's a little bit rough, unfortunately, so you will need to actually finish this off with a bit of sandpaper, and then you can give it a light coat of plastic spray, that kind of bumper spray and stuff. And as you can see, it's a bit longer, so it protrudes further at the back, so you're able to get a hose on here. Again, when you clamp it up, don't over clamp it. Yes, it is strong, but it's not that strong. Don't go over clamping these. But yes, so that's going to be going on all the website this evening, guys, as you watch the video. Now, talking about the video, let's go. So there's that list that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I've already put the car on the ramp and removed the front grille and the bumper. And we're going to work our way from the front to the back. And there's actually quite a lot to do at the front. So let me show you some of the bits that we're going to be dealing with right now on the front of this car. And as you can see, it's been really well done. This was a shell rebuild, literally from the ground up. It's all painted up and stuff. Now, running an oil cooler on there. One of the bits is one of the oil lines are leaking, slightly dripping, so I need to sort that out. Another thing is he had the front, this was like a skinny bumper model, and he had that little panel at the front. So we removed that, and now what we're going to do is we're also going to replace the cross member, which is quite a big thing, which I'm going to show you guys what we're going from and to. So these are some of the bits we're going to be dealing with, which is it needs the air deflector that kind of picks up from the bottom vent on the big bumper cars. That was missing on the car, as well as it was also missing these little side air dividers. Now I've got a few types here, so we're going to hopefully figure out which is the right set for the car. And in my mind, the far superior but hard to find Passat B4 front cross member. You end up basically it's like a Mark II on the sides, but here it's like a Mark III with the in my mind, the far superior Mark III engine mount at the front. And then obviously you need the Mark III. You could just then use the standard Mark III front bracket, which basically tilts the engine at the right angle. If you kind of use just this with a Mark II, it kind of tilts the engine. If you've got like a UK car or, you know, a right-hand drive car with the brake servo on that side, if you're running like a 20 valve or something, it can become tight. It can even actually, the timing belt cover, you won't be able to get it on, it will hit the brake servo and stuff. If you actually use this setup, this with that, tilts the engine forward, kind of inclines it a little bit, and actually brings it away from the brake servo if you've got a UK car. But these, like I said, these Passat B4 ones are quite hard. In Europe, we can still get hold of these. Unfortunately, trying to post this to the UK, forget that, the weight and the size. But anyway, so that's what we're gonna be doing. These bits here, as well as we're gonna be rerouting. The car's got MFA and he wants the outside temperature to be working. It's reading something like minus whatever it is, probably disconnected or a faulty switch. I've got like a Mark 4 style here, one which I think is the same resistance, should work fine. But the location on it is, and it actually goes in there. That's why you've got this little gap here in this trim bit as well. That isn't on the other side. As you can see. And the reason for that is, so the little air temp can actually fit in there like so. Let's support the engine up and get this front crosser member off to replace it and loosen the bolts off for the starter motor. Another thing that needs to be sorted that's on the list as well is this wiring kind of goes around here. It looks quite messy. It's also missing like the little bracket that kind of holds the wiring in tidy there. And also, some of you guys with Mark II 16 valves or power steering will recognize this is actually supposed to be on the block. So we're going to remove this and put actually the power steering lines where they're supposed to go underneath, supported by that. And then also I'm going to 3D print a holder for these power steering lines, and that might actually become a new line. Let's see what you guys think. Comment on the videos if you like it and if it's worth putting one up for sale. Yeah, so first things first. Disconnect the battery, which is done. Let me now just remove these two. No, I just need to remove actually that bolt there first. So let's remove this and then remove that 16. All right, so actually now that I've removed some of the stuff here, I can actually see, and maybe what some of you have done or what a lot of people do is Mark II cross member, Mark II mount, Mark III bracket. And you're going to see the difference it makes, not at this end. You're going to see the difference here, as you can see how close that has come to here. And also he's had to modify the bonnet to clear the throttle body. Now, I don't know if it's going to fix that problem, but you're going to be quite interested to see how far forward this comes and maybe even how much lower, or if anything at all, lower it will drop it. So the only thing that holds this kind of main cross member is these 13s, not that one. So you've got just two there now, once obviously you've removed the bumper bolts. So the Passat B4 cross beam or cross bar is in with the Mark III mount. Now let's see what it looks like at the top, what it's done to change the angle of the engine. So I don't know if you can see that, it does sit lower here now, it's not so tilted up, as well as got a bit more space here in between this and that. As you can see also, look, it's come away because it was actually rubbing. I don't know if you guys can see that on there. It was rubbing on there before, and now you've actually got, I don't know, 5mm, 6mm on there. So it's not going to rub anymore on that. And also the angle of the engine looks a bit straighter. Yeah, so that's worked out quite well. So that's the benefits of having a cross beam. Now you can actually also imitate this without getting the cross beam if you just use the Passat B3 front bracket. Now I have those on the website, sorry for the self-promotion, but I do actually have those on the site with bolts and without bolts. So yeah, check that site out. Okay, let me line this up and then put the bolt through there. Right, so the next thing to do is you're going to put these air dividers up, or air channels, ducts, whatever you want to call them, to feed cold air, force it in. Now removed these bolts so we can actually get some free play in here, because that needs to actually go through that bit there to scoop up the air from the big bumper up into the radiator. So that looks a lot better with these dividers in there, these air dividers or air ducts, whatever you want to call these. Another thing we're going to be dealing with is the oil cooler. It is slightly leaking on the connectors that come off the oil filter housing. So So I need to tighten those up a little bit. And look at that. They're not even tight. I mean, they're quite lucky they weren't actually chucking out oil. I also looked at the oil radiator. It's mounted quite strangely. They've used that bracket there, which okay, is pretty cool to isolate it, but I think they just pushed a bolt through there. Don't know if you guys can hear that. Look at that. I mean, that's not great either, really. I think I'm going to remove this and then just actually have a better fixing on there, keep that up there, but at least this here won't be able to do that, or whatever this thing does here as well, with a little bit of, I don't know what that is on there. But yeah, let's fix all of these little bits here at the front. Actually, the oil cooler was an easy fix, just literally just bent it up inside there, and that's fixed that. So I've taken off the oil cooler pipes, and actually these adapters, they were loose, so I've tightened them up. So I don't know if they've come loose over time because of movement. So if that is the case, these things are going to need to be supported somehow. You have to keep an eye on this, and there isn't really any way I can put a bracket on this. So what I'm going to do is just going to tighten these up, and then ask the customer to keep an eye on it and see if it is the movement that is actually working these things loose again. And also I'm going to change, this battery lead was literally rubbing up against it. So I'm just going to kind of turn that around and put it around the other side so it clears, so it doesn't rub on this pipe, because it will rub through that and short out. Right, so let's tighten this up again. And this is going to have to be a wait and see, and get feedback from the customer and see if that sorts the problem out. So now that that's sorted, I'm going to be moving on to this mess of wires around here, and I've actually bent the power steering bottle a bit more further so it's lower, so it doesn't actually, because it was rubbing slightly on this power steering pipe. So that's sorted. So now I'm going to disconnect the battery, move the wires round. Could also move this one round because it's too close to this oil cooler pipe, which I don't like, as well as I've got like the little bracket that goes on there that kind of tidies up the wiring. Here are those bits, that's the one that goes on the starter, that's the one that goes on the coolant pipe, and these are actually the ones that go around, because I've got the bumper off and stuff for the fog lights and the indicators that kind of holds the wiring down there. Got those also in good condition. These are quite hard to find, but anyway, yeah, let's get on with doing the top bit first. So like I said, here was the air temp sensor. It's been routed around this way around, where it should actually go onto the left side. Now, where are we? Here we go. So I've run the wire all the way around. It literally just needs to be plugged in, like so. Job done. So what a difference that's made. It looks totally different. It looks so much less decluttered and a lot cleaner here. So to recap what I've done, put that little holder there, rerouted the wire, unplugged all of these here, and run it the way it should go, kind of underneath the tank, into the holder, into there. Also with the alternator, just kind of wrapped it up, the end of it with thread so it doesn't stand out, and also rerouted that round, and also it sits in this little holder here now with these little clips. The power that goes from the battery to the starter, also rerouted that, so they're going around, goes underneath. It's cable tied onto this main wire, so it's not actually chafing or rubbing on anything at all there. And that is pretty much looking quite cool. Also this radiator fan, I put like a little clip down there. I don't know if you guys are going to see it, probably not. And also put like a little P-clip here on the rad to tidy up the wiring. And what a vast improvement that is. Looks pretty cool. Also here for the leads, I've also 3D printed a Magnecore 8.5 ignition lead holder for there. Now that I'm actually underneath the car, there's a few more bits that need to be done here at the front, and some of those bits are going to be steering arm. You could hear that. Let me see if you can. Yeah, there's play here in the knuckle, there in that steering arm. So now before I actually put the steering track rod back on, the customer complained of heavy steering at points. They couldn't really explain how the steering felt strange, and now I understand why. On full lock, I don't know if you guys can see that in, let me see if it zooms in a bit more. You can see, look, it's actually hitting the wishbone. And the other side, I mean, I've tried to bend this down a little bit already because it was actually hitting a lot earlier. So what I'm going to do is get my belt sander, and let's take a little bit of aluminium off this and hopefully clear, and also maybe I'll smooth this down as well on both sides because it's doing it on both sides. Taking a bit down with my belt sander, let's see if it, okay, that's a lot better. What I'm going to do is just get where it's marking. I mean, the steering doesn't go that far anyway, but yeah, let me just take off a bit more where it's marked to give me that bit of extra space. All right, I think I'll be happy with that because the steering, like I said, doesn't go all this way because the track rod's not on. Okay, so fixed that problem. Took down the wishbone a little bit and the bracket a little bit, and also while I was down here, he asked me to double check all the bolts. So I have, some of them did need a bit of a little tighten up. The steering ones actually were kind of, because you've got the nut on here, even though it's a nylon nut, it's not going to work itself loose, but it was loose. So I just tightened those up, and I put like a little white mark to indicate which ones I've checked, and then you can see which ones have moved. So I've done all of those, as well as all of the drive shaft ones actually all did have, or did need a little bit of a little extra bit of tighten. Just going to check this bell housing bolt. Yep, and I'm pretty much done here at the front. So I've done the front grill's on. As you can see, the engine bay looks a lot tidier with just kind of some wire management on there. It looks a lot nicer, a lot more OEM. Now, what we're gonna be doing is, as you saw, we've done all the bolts underneath, tightened all the bits up. Last bit to do here in the engine bay is actually gonna be removing the top half of the airbox, and that is because we also more 3D printed. He's using the say ABF airbox, and I've 3D printed a nice velocity stack here which fits perfectly. That's also on the website, guys. Again, a shameless plug for that. Got the bumper on, as you can see. Now, due to it being an early spec car, there's a few bits missing here that the later cars have to actually hold the wings. There's like an extra bolt here in the middle normally, so you can see it's really loose, because what would happen is the front panel would actually tie in the bottom of the wing here onto this front cross support here at the front. So I'm going to make up, or I've made up with some angle stainless steel, a little bracket like this, and it will literally just tie in. I'll paint it black, but it will tie in nicely from there to there. Just, it'll do the job. So let me just drill a few holes in this, test fit, and spray it black. So just to recap, this is what it's like before, with no support. And this is the one with support. Look at that, wing's not moving at all. So that's perfect. Okay, so 2 wing supports done in matte black. Looking very nice, very solid. Look at that. Probably maybe even more solid than the original front panel maybe. So there's only a few more things to show you on the bench. That'll be 3D printed to go in the engine bay, and it's ready for its next event in a few weeks' time. Can't wait to show you guys my little bits are going to be tested on here, which are going to be the shifter bits. Also, so now unfortunately my battery died. I hadn't realized it actually died, and I did the fitting on these. Unfortunately, I can't show you what they look like. Also, I've made this up, which is for those power steering pipes. This is a kind of a test fit. This is just using PLA. I actually make the other stuff out of like a nylon more resistible, heat resistant material, high grade, because obviously we don't want this warping with the under bonnet temps and stuff, and also discoloring and stuff like that. So yeah, I've made up like a 2-piece bush, again the nylon kind of bush 3D printed that replaces this. Now funny enough, the customer has actually asked me once I fitted these onto the car, because he's actually been here, and he said, oh, have I adjusted this? And I said, nope, all I've done literally is just change the bushes. And the reason why he asked that was because he can actually get reverse in. He says, yes, he's noticed a small difference, but also it's just easier to kind of select reverse, doesn't crunch anymore. And obviously maybe because the play that was in here is now totally gone. So when you're putting that kind of, those rubbers are quite soft. Obviously you're gonna get a bit more harshness coming into the engine bay, maybe a bit more noise into the cabin, sorry. And but yeah, it's definitely a vast improvement. He's happy with these, and it's quite a simple and easy thing to replace. Also here for the leads, I've also 3D printed a Magnacore 8.5 ignition lead holder for there. So now this is actually the finished product down there, which is, as you can see, the holder for those power steering lines. Let me show you what it looks like underneath. So underneath here, you can see you've got the original little bracket steel hook kind of thing that goes onto there. Now, if you've got a Mark II Golf, they start to sag over time. I mean, this bracket is literally going to be exclusive to if you're running the original Mark II power steering lines and you have an 02A or an 02J gearbox. And yep, and this bracket literally nicely, tidily, I think it looks quite smart, holds that in there. So let me know in the comments, guys, if you want something like this for your Mark II 02A or 02J conversion, be it 20 valve, VR, whatever it is. This I think will work on most models as long as you're running an 02A, 02J gearbox. Okay, now that this is done, we can move on to the back of the car where the brake lines or the brakes seem to be leaking. So moving on to the back of the car now, the customer was complaining the pedal felt a bit strange. I looked, jacked it up, and it was kind of damp around the rear of the car on the brake, on the handbrake cables on both sides, and it left 2 little puddles. So now what I've done is I've literally tightened up all the hoses, because it's got like a BF Goodrich hose, like the converter for the Mark IV caliper. So I tightened all those up, put some brake cleaner, cleaned it all down. Now leave it there for 24 hours before I take it for a drive and make sure there's no leaks from that. All right guys, so it's finished, or almost finished, ready for its test drive, but we've come to the end of the video, guys. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, ding-a-ling-a-ling, click on that notification bell, and be safe, guys.